The abandoned asylum. The old asylum had been abandoned for years. It was a decrepit old building, with crumbling walls and broken windows. Most people in the nearby town avoided it, believing that it was haunted by the spirits of the patients who had died there. But one night, a group of teenagers decided to explore the abandoned asylum. They were thrill seekers, looking for a rush of adrenaline that only exploring a place like this could provide. They entered the building cautiously, their flashlights illuminating the dark corridors. As they made their way through the abandoned wards, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Strange noises echoed through the halls, and they could hear whispers and moans coming from the rooms. But they shrugged it off, telling each other that it was just their imagination. However, as they reached the 4th floor, they realized that they were not alone. They could see a figure standing at the end of the hallway, its back turned towards them. It was a patient, wearing a straight jacket and staring out of the window into the night. The teenagers froze, unsure of what to do. They couldn't see the patient's face, but they could sense that something was not right. They slowly approached the figure, their hearts racing with fear. But as they got closer, they realized that something was very wrong. The patient's back was covered in blood, and its head was hanging at an unnatural angle. It wasn't alive. Screaming in terror, the teenagers turned to run, but the door to the hallway had locked behind them. Trapped, they watched in horror as the patient turned around to face them. Its face was twisted in a grotesque expression, with eyes that glowed red in the darkness. The teenagers tried to break down the door, but it wouldn't budge. They were trapped with the undead patient, with no way out. The patient began to move towards them, its footsteps echoing through the halls. Just as it was about to reach them, the door suddenly swung open. The teenagers stumbled out into the night, gasping for air. They never looked back as they ran away from the asylum, never to return again. To this day, people say that the asylum is still haunted by the spirits of its former patients. No one has dared to enter the building since that fateful night, and the town has all but forgotten about the asylum and the horror that lies within its walls. The Ghostly Hitchhiker. It was a dark and stormy night when John was driving home from work. The rain was coming down in sheets, and he could barely see the road ahead of him. Suddenly, he saw a figure on the side of the road, a young woman, drenched to the bone and waving her arms frantically. Feeling sorry for her, John pulled over to the side of the road. He rolled down his window and asked her if she needed a ride. She said yes and got into the car, thanking him profusely for stopping. As they drove along the deserted road, the woman didn't say much. John tried to make small talk, but she seemed distant and preoccupied. Suddenly, she asked him to stop the car, saying that this was as far as she needed to go. John pulled over to the side of the road, and the woman got out of the car. As he watched her walk away, he suddenly realized that he hadn't seen her face clearly. It was almost as if she was hiding it from him. Shrugging it off, John drove home. But when he got there, he realized that he had left his phone in the car. He ran back outside to get it, but when he opened the door, he froze in terror. Sitting in the passenger seat was the young woman, but this time, her face was twisted in a grotesque expression. With glowing eyes and a mouth full of sharp teeth, John tried to run, but the woman grabbed him with her cold, bony hands. She whispered in his ear, telling him that he was her ride to the afterlife, and that he was never going to leave her. Terrified, John struggled to break free, but the woman's grip was too strong. He closed his eyes and prayed for help, but when he opened them again, the woman was gone. All that was left was the sound of the rain pounding against the car. From that night on, John never drove on that road again. But to this day, people say that on dark and stormy nights, you can see the ghostly hitchhiker waiting by the side of the road, waiting for her next unsuspecting victim. The shadow in the attic. For years, the old house on Maple Street had sat abandoned. People in the town had whispered about it being haunted, and some claimed to have seen strange shadows lurking in the windows at night. But no one had ever dared to investigate. That was until the new family moved in. The family consisted of a mother, a father, and a young daughter. They were thrilled to have found such an affordable home in a nice neighborhood. However, there was one thing about the house that made him feel uneasy: the attic. The door to the attic was always locked, and they had never been given a key. The shadow in the attic. But despite their reservations, they moved in anyway. One night, The little girl woke up in the middle of the night and heard something coming from the attic. She could hear strange noises, like footsteps and whispers. She tried to ignore it and go back to sleep, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was up there, watching her. The next day, she asked her parents about the noises, but they dismissed it as nothing more than the house settling. But the little girl knew better. She was convinced that something was up there, and she was determined to find out what it was. She spent the next few days searching the house for a way into the attic. Eventually, she found a hidden key in the basement, and she eagerly raced upstairs to unlock the door. As she pushed the door open, she was hit with an overwhelming feeling of dread. The attic was dark and musty, with cobwebs covering the corners. But it wasn't the cobwebs that caught her attention. It was the shadowy figure lurking in the corner. The figure was tall and slender, with long arms and fingers that seemed to reach out towards her. The little girl tried to scream, but no sound would come out of her mouth. She could feel the shadowy figure drawing closer, and she knew that she was in grave danger. But just as she was about to be consumed by the shadow, her parents burst into the room and turned on the light. The shadowy figure vanished into thin air, and the little girl was left shaken and terrified. Her parents never found any evidence of anything being in the attic, but the little girl knew what she had seen. From that night on, she could never shake the feeling that the shadow was still up there, watching her every move. The end.